What do you want all these individuals that are using your products to understand that really just never makes it onto a Designs for Health label?
You'll hear this repeated in the media. Supplements are unregulated. They are far from unregulated. They're just not regulated through the same regulations as pharmaceuticals.
High quality supplements are not cheap.
You can buy the lowest end Chevy or you can buy a Porsche. They're not going to cost the same.
Welcome to Inside the Formula, a SuppCo original series where we go behind the science of supplements that have earned the Tested by SuppCo certification. Each episode, I sit down with the formulators, chemists, and scientists behind these products to find out what it actually takes to make a supplement that works. I'm Jordan Glynn, head of science here at SuppCo. My guest today is Dr. David Brady. Dr. Brady is a licensed naturopathic physician with over 30 years of integrative practice experience. He is board certified in functional medicine and clinical nutrition and is a fellow of the American College of Nutrition. Dr. Brady serves as Chief Medical Officer of Designs for Health and Diagnostic Solutions Labs and is Professor Emeritus of Nutrition at the University of Bridgeport. He also maintains an active clinical practice at Whole Body Medicine in Fairfield, Connecticut. Before we begin, an important reminder. Tested by SuppCo is an independent certification program that SuppCo offers as part of its business model. Brands featured in this service have paid fees to have their products analyzed by the tested program, which tests the products that consumers actually buy to verify their active ingredient claims. Test results are published transparently, pass or fail, and cannot be influenced. Today's episode features a brand partner. And now, my conversation with Dr. David Brady. Welcome. Awesome. David Brady, thank you so much for being here. Appreciate you coming on.
Oh, total pleasure. I love it. And thanks for having me.
Tell me about all these guitars you have in the background here. This is you have a nice setup
Oh,
going on.
you can't see them all. There's a whole bunch back there. There's some in cases. And I just had a gig last night. So they're not even, some of them aren't, the good ones aren't even unpacked. So
Dude, I love it. That's two lives. Musical guy. You got the medical side of it. You got the supplements piece. You got your interesting conversation. I think we're about to have today.
yeah, well, I like to stay busy, as they say, and feed both sides of the brain.
I love that. So I want to talk. I'm excited today because we get to talk about Designs for Health and all of the different things that go into producing the supplements that you guys produce. And one of the things I think is super interesting is that Designs for Health actually started as really a chain of clinical nutrition clinics. How
Yeah.
do you get from clinical nutrition clinics to supplements in the way that you all are building products today?
It's a really interesting origin story that most people don't know about Designs for Health. The Designs for Health name and entity originally went back to 1989, and it was actually originally one clinical nutrition and weight loss clinic in like Westchester County, New York, outside New York City. And it was Linda Lazat, was a great nutritionist, and she was one of the founders along with her husband, Jonathan. Um, at the time, and then she was very, very successful, and she was a great clinical nutritionist, and she basically started opening more and more of these clinics and had to hire clinical nutritionists in there into each facility and kind of teach them how to do the business of nutrition and to make it efficient and to make it, get really good outcomes and to make it a successful, practice or endeavor. And they were actually hiring a lot of the master's level graduate nutritionists out of the University of Bridgeport's master's in human nutrition program, which I ran. So that was my first contact with Designs for Health, actually. And then the chain of clinics got extremely successful, and they were training all of these nutritionists they hired, and those nutritionists would talk to other nutritionists and said, "Hey, why don't you just do some trainings for us to take seminars on how to be successful in nutrition, and how to run a nutrition practice, and how to select products, and how to build protocols." Because they got their great academic training, but then there's the real world, making it work in the wild. Um, so Designs for Health started doing that. So they kind of ended up being in clinical services and education before they were ever supplements. But they obviously used a lot of supplements in these clinics. And with one of the supplements, I don't remember, it might have been a CoQ10, might have been an L-carnitine, I'm not sure, but they had been getting great results. And then all of a sudden, they weren't getting the same kind of results, didn't see the same kind of changes, and they sent the product out for third-party testing, and it came back not meeting label spec at all. So they did that with a few other products, and this was, this is a long time ago. This is pre-DSHEA, right? It was more the Wild West in nutrition then than it is now, for sure. So they decided, we want to control our quality. So they started contract manufacturing some of their own products, particularly the core ones they were using. And they were great products. And then they started formulating a couple products. This is before me in the company. I've been at Designs for Health a long time, but I don't go back quite that far. But I do know the history. And they had another, really well-known nutritionist at the time, Robert Crahan, involved in the company, and him and Linda and a few others made some really really cool formulas. And they were really only for use in this chain of clinics. But then a lot of people started hearing about them and they wanted them too. So that started with sort of this side supplement business of Designs for Health. And they became, so well received and so popular. And Robert was a very brilliant guy. He was very early in things like nootropics and products for brain and neurological health. He's one of the first into phospholipids, phosphatidylcholine, glycerylphosphocholine, phosphorine, in various nootropics. He was really early in, the therapeutic use of CoQ10 and L-carnitine. In fact, he wrote the book, The Carnitine Miracle. And then years later, as the supplement business grew, sort of the clinics fell away and they got sold off. And the education and the supplements stayed. So we've stayed a supplement education, practitioner education company ever since. And then Robert left at one point to pursue other interests, and we had spoken at a lot of the same medical and nutrition conferences together. He knew me from the academic world, and he recommended me to come in as the chief medical officer, which I did about 23 or 4 years ago. And at the time, really, Designs for Health had cool products, but it was a limited line. It was a niche line. A lot of people use a little bit of Designs for Health for their neuro stuff or their neurotropics or for their L-carnitine or what have you, but it wasn't a full integrative functional medicine nutraceutical line like in the day you would have gotten from Metagenics and Pure or Thorne or something like that. So when they brought me in, I had come from one of the large competitors, one of the ones I just mentioned, and I was formulating for them, and I was a KOL lecturing and doing all kinds of things in the functional medicine world. So when I came in, I was very intrigued by Designs for Health because I thought the people there were really well intentioned and they were doing it for the right reasons. They were very very passionate about clinical nutrition, and they were clinicians, which I loved. They weren't just business people, bean counters, and nothing wrong with that, but they had the passion of clinicians, which I really loved. And they were really obsessed with quality and science and efficacy. So I said, sure, let's do this, but only if we can build this thing out to a full integrated functional medicine line that's better than anyone that's ever existed before. And we're gonna, you know, we're the little PT boat that can against the battleships at the time, and we're going to outmaneuver them, and we're going to be at the tip of the spear as far as evolving science, and we're not only going to match them, we're going to do it way better. And I think we did that. And the market speaks. We're the number one recommended, number one preferred brand by functional and integrative medicine providers today in North America, and we're all over the world. So worked out.
So I love that. I love that origin story. And ultimately, you guys were doing quality before quality was cool. Like you said before,
Yeah,
Deshay, before all those other
yeah,
metrics. And you came in as the chief medical officer with this mandate to build out a fully functional medicine, essentially
yeah,
supplement.
yeah,
Today, you guys have what, 400 plus products? How do you get to that
yeah,
scale without
yeah.
losing that underpinning
Yeah.
component that really made the brand credible? It's that origin story.
Yeah, that's a great question. It's just being actually just committed to excellence and only bringing in people that have that same commitment. In my, research and development side of the company and the whole science side, new product development, innovation, and clinical education, I've really been able to scour the functional integrative medicine landscape, the medical, integrative medicine academic landscape. And I ran the largest, and the first real integrative nutrition graduate program in the country. In addition, though, I was the vice president of all of health sciences at the University of Bridgeport. Naturopathic medicine, chiropractic, nursing, PA, I mean, dental, you name it. So I knew a lot of really bright people, and a lot of the best people who I ran into academically, scientifically, clinically. I cherry picked them very well, and I picked the best people that knew how to come in and help in whatever their domain was, whether it was to be on our scientific advisory board because they had a specific area that they were really masterful in, or whether it's someone to come into R&D to help from the nutritional biochemistry standpoint, manufacturing people. So we never compromised on who we hired. We hired the best people and kept them happy and empowered them and supported them, and it's just worked. We've been able to scale, really well without losing our commitment and our character, which I'm very proud of that. And it's the only way I'd have it. I wouldn't be involved anymore if it, a lot of our competitors have just gone a whole different direction. They're they're no longer owned by the founder or the family or have any connection to it. They were bought two, three times over by private equity or venture capital or Wall Street, or they've been brought public, they've been brought back private. It's a whole different ballgame when you go there. And then it becomes very blue sky, direct to consumer, and cheap, sort of the consumer health product kind of driven. It's a whole different way of doing business. It's not what our model is, which is staying really true to involving the healthcare practitioner in the whole equation, because we feel people get better results when someone is guiding them and helping them navigate the sea of information that's being thrown at them every day.
I mean, that makes sense. And you mentioned that word results. I mean, supplements are only good if they can produce results, but a supplement is only as good as its base ingredients. We use the word
Yeah,
source a lot, or raw materials, when we think about this. And so,
yeah.
talk to me through all the way through. How do you even begin to start? How does quality begin when you are looking at those original materials that are even going to go before manufacturing even begins?
Yeah, you're right. That's where it begins. And, we've been in the game so long and we have a lot of long tenured people in the industry. My vice president of research and development, Dr. Mike Jurgowitz, has been with me for 13 years, and Dr. Oscar Kutsia running education. He's been around 10 years, and many people even longer. And we know all the big players in the field when it comes to raw ingredients and emerging ingredients, and we're really across all of the emerging ones too, the new ones. There's a lot of new ones coming up, and a lot of them are coming out of pharma. They're transitioning ingredients or different kinds of materials that they were trying to bring through a therapeutic agent or a drug approval and hit a roadblock for some reason. Usually it's regulatory or financial, and then they say, well, let's try to pivot this into the supplement world, right? And they're interesting to deal with because they're very, very smart and they're very good scientifically, but they don't understand the supplement world. They have a very false um, assumption, which a lot of people do, and you'll hear this repeated in the media all the time, and it drives me crazy. Supplements are unregulated. They are far from unregulated. They are highly regulated. And if they weren't, the FDA wouldn't be walking through our manufacturing plants all the time, right? They are highly regulated these days. They're just not regulated through the same regulations and the same rules as pharmaceuticals or drugs or therapeutic agents. And there's good reasons for that, right? The whole economics of it are very different. The IP possibilities are different. So, and the risks are different, right? So they shouldn't be regulated the same. So what they should be saying is supplements aren't regulated in the same channels and methods as drugs, but that's far from them not being regulated. So when they come into this space, they think they can just do whatever they want, and we have to tell them, no, 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 that's that's not how it is. We have teams of attorneys and regulatory compliance people within Designs for Health, just making sure that we're playing by all those rules. Um, and post Shea in 19, I think 93, um, things changed a lot. Before that, it was the Wild West. And I think people remember that, and they just parrot that same thing. There's no regulations on it. So We usually stick with very high reputable raw ingredient manufacturers that have been in it a long time, that have very buttoned up scientific departments and regulatory departments and good research um, behind them. And when we evaluate, a raw ingredient for either as a standalone or an inclusion in a formulation, I mean, internally at Designs for Health, we rip it apart. I mean, we do our due diligence. We go back through every kind of medical, we're using AI to do it a lot now, and we're comparing databases against databases and studies against studies, and we literally come up with we have a whole matrix that we evaluate these things on, because we're trying to first see, is it safe, right? Number two, is it efficacious? Does it work? Does it deliver a functional outcome? And not just in animal studies. We're looking for human clinical outcome trials, right? So it's not just tox studies and getting self-affirmed grass. We need that, but it's not just that. It's not just preclinical animal data, tox studies, self-affirmed grass, put it in a product, right? We're looking for human outcome data that's published in, peer-reviewed, third-party, good quality journals. Um, and then we go to work with the quality control of the vendor. Now, many of these large vendors we've worked with a long time. We know what their compliance is like, but we still have to do all the same things. If they're a new supplier to us, our regulatory department has the most rigorous vendor qualification program. The suppliers hate it because it's hell for them. It's like doing an accreditation visit if you're in academia. I mean, there's a million questions and things they have to supply and documents, and we need to know everything from the very precise analytical methods they're using to identify the structure and function of whatever the ingredient is, that we can replicate with third-party testing and our own internal testing. And some of these things they're novel, they're new, they're kind of new ingredients on the scene. And sometimes we have to work out analytical methodologies to be able to test them, right? Because there's no just off the shelf kind of method, or the method that someone may be using that they think applies doesn't really apply to this new form of a nutrient. So it's a rigorous process, and we need to make sure we have everything buttoned up from a safety and regulatory standpoint. But then we really parse through all the science to try to figure out what can we say about it that's true, right? That has regulatory compliance. So we try to develop any functional claims that we can to say what the benefits of these things are, without extrapolating and making stuff up, right? Or you can put a long reference list behind anything that you find out on a PubMed search, but a lot of times, you look at these things and then you go read the studies, and they don't say anything like what they're implying that they're trying to support with what the statements are. So, we do that with a lot of rigor. We use a lot of graduate students actually from the University of Bridgeport's program to do a lot of, deep digging in the literature for us, and then it goes through our actual science team. So it's quite a process, but it's worth it, because we say it every day. It took us 37 years to build the reputation we have with practitioners, and we could lose it in a day. And once you lose it, you don't have it anymore, right? So we take that very seriously every day. Every day we go to work, we w- we're doing the job. That's for sure.
I love that breakdown because everything you just said, you'll never see on a bottle. You won't even
No,
see it on a website. And it'll be able to appreciate the level of detail that goes into not just making sure our raw ingredient is good, not just making sure the raw ingredient has science behind it, but that those Venn diagrams overlap and it can actually become efficacious in a product.
yeah,
One of the things that you said there is this concept of third party testing. And we know that
yeah.
third party testing varies wildly in rigor. When you guys think about third party testing, what does this concept of independent verification mean to your brand? And what ultimately chose you to pursue the tested by SuppCo certification?
Yeah, that's another good question. And you kind of alluded to it. The stuff you don't see on the label that we do, all of the due diligence that we put into ingredients, to our formulas, to our quality control, to whether it's testing, we need all the testing data from the manufacturer themselves. But when it hits our docs, we test it all again, right? Internally, we test it. And some things We send out to third-party labs, even raw ingredients to confirm it. But we have our own analytical chemistry department and, all of that to do quality testing. Um, but then we test final products. We do batch, pick, on certain time schedules, finished products to do full quality control testing as well. Um, Now, not everyone's doing that, okay? And not everyone's investing in the finished product formulary research that we do with human clinical trials. We have all the trial data and all on the individual ingredients, and then we may put several of them together, and we're going to assume that there's synergy and they work together. And four ingredients equals, four plus outcomes, but you don't know until you actually do the testing or you do the research. So we're doing a lot of that research, everything from case reports to full blown, very high powered, placebo controlled blinded studies. But when SuppCo, we can say that, we can yell that from our tower. We're science first. That's our motto of the company, right? That's our tagline underneath the Designs for Health: science first, right? We don't say that lightly. I mean, we stick to that every day, but you know what? Everyone says that. Even when they don't do it, everyone will say their products are the best quality. We do this, we do. We're actually really doing all this stuff. And I'm not saying nobody else is, but not everybody is, right? But it's not on the label. So how do you verify that? Well, the best thing is something like SuppCo, like, you've developed, where, someone who's non-biased and a third party can evaluate this stuff, look at what, we send to validate what our product is, why we formulated it the way we did, what ingredients are in it, what the science is behind it, and then our analytical data, right? How we're assuring quality. And then it can be tested by someone. It's totally outside our control, and then it gets rated, if you will. We're all about that, because then that can finally validate everything we do and add value to our products, and give the person deciding on the Designs for Health brand, because we're not the cheapest thing out there. When we never will be, and be able to do it the way we do. We're not a commodity price point product. We're the best product, right? And we try to keep our costs as in line as we possibly can. We take great pride in doing that, because we realize this is real money to people investing in their health. But, you know, just like automobiles, you can buy the lowest end Chevy, or you can buy a Porsche. They're not the same, and they're not going to cost the same. So
And that is something I think about a lot when it comes to supplements, is this concept of high quality supplements are not cheap. You can go on marketplaces,
sure.
you can find cheaper versions of almost
Oh yeah.
everything, but that doesn't mean that you're going to get the quality you need to get. Something about that I want to talk about, because you guys have a really unique model in the sense that while you do offer a direct consumer option, you also have really structured this model to make going through the provider more enticing. And
Yes.
specifically, I think about a cost perspective as well. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and why you guys have decided to build your model in that format?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the competitors who are like at our level in the professional, um, space, or had a legacy from the healthcare practitioner space. Many of them are not really healthcare practitioner brands anymore. All of them at our size, other than us, have made a different decision. They've decided to basically go big brand, direct to consumer, TV commercials all over social media, and just the prime driver of their business volume and revenue is just selling directly to the consumer that uses their product. We've specifically decided not to do that. We wanted to stay very much in the camp of honoring the knowledgeable, well trained healthcare provider, whether they're a physician level, a clinical nutritionist level, what have you. You know, we know that people get better outcomes when they're working with a knowledgeable, well trained practitioner who knows the difference and knows the right things to do, and can contextualize what's going on with the patient or the client, and triage things and make the best decisions on how to stage things and how to do things and how to measure outcomes. Um, there's nothing we want more than our products to be used at the right time, for the right reason, for the right duration, to get the best outcome. And we firmly believe that that happens when there's a practitioner involved. And that's why we honor the practitioner in what we do. And we try to engage them into the whole equation as much as possible. On the flip side, the world is the world. Reality is reality. And social media is social media, and Amazon is Amazon. And some people want to buy their product on Amazon or wherever and get it delivered by a drone. And if they can't, they're not going to buy the product. They're going to replace it with something that they can, including the one that the practitioner recommended to them. Right. So that's just reality. And we understand that. So we decided long ago we can't, hold back the ocean by putting our finger in the dike wall or whatever, but we can control it and shape it. So what we did, I think, is very clever. We have an Amazon presence, but we control it. It's not a bunch of resellers. We are very strict on resellers, take legal action against them and the like. So we control our Amazon presence. And we are on Amazon. That is true. But people pay a price premium to buy our products on Amazon versus what they can get it from their health practitioner for. Because the practitioner has benefits of our rewards program, our discounting programs. They can discount to patients. And then just the general retail price has a premium on Amazon. So that protects the healthcare provider, but it does allow choice on the part of the consumer. But, if someone is working with a practitioner, there's a viable, story for that practitioner to tell them, hey, listen, I'm the one making the recommendations here. And I'm a practitioner as well. I've been in practice for over 30 years. I still am. I'm very honest with patients. I tell them, listen, you can buy what I'm recommending to you in various places, right? I'd appreciate it if you buy it through my e-pharmacy because I'm the one giving you the advice. And this is part of what keeps the lights on in this practice. And if everyone buys it somewhere else, guess what's going to happen to my professional fee if you want to see me? It's going up, right? So this is all part of the model. You're buying it anyway. You can buy it less expensively and help me, your practitioner who's trying to help you, right? It's a win-win. So that is worth. And by and large, the practitioners, patients, or clients stay home working with them, either buying through our e-pharmacy or using our virtual dispensary or whatever it may be. We build those for practitioners as well. But we provide consumer choice. We also build in a lot of tools for the provider to make it apparent to the patient or the client that they're getting better outcomes. We have what are called our spotlight testing. So we have a whole series of personalized precision medicine testing, metabolomics, genomics, microbiome, hormones, you name it. We're testing it. And at very reasonable prices, they can get a pre-test along these, incredible biomarkers. We're using the best in breed laboratories for each of these types of testing to do the analytical work for us. So it's non-biased analytical data. We're not, the data is the data, right? And then, we can see what they are in a pre-state, and then we can provide, the clinician through AI and algorithms and all parsing through all this, metadata in some cases. What's the best thing to do for this patient? Where are you going to get the best bang for your buck? Where are you going to get the best outcome for investing your time and money? And what do you go at first? Some of these people are really chronically ill and they have a multitude of complaints and symptoms and issues, right? How do you get to the bottom? How do you climb upstream and really get to the root cause? Well, you got to test. You got to look at their individual biochemistry and metabolism and microbiome and all these other things. And then when you have that data, how do you absorb it all? How do you analyze it all to the best of what we know in science right now? And that's what these tests allow you to do. And then you can intervene, and then you can post test and see what changed. You can there's a test coming, right? You're going to know if the stuff's working or not, right? And we love that because we're confident that if you use the right products of ours for the right reasons, you will get the right outcomes and it will show in the metrics.
All right. So, David, this is great. The way that you lay out this concept of making the products actually cheaper to go through the provider is super unique. I think it
Mhm.
also helps guarantee that a consumer is going to get the right product, as you say, for the right reason at the right time and the right amount, as opposed to guessing. And I think that it's a very unique model that I think it's important for people to know about. One
And
thing I
we
want
do
to
try to match up. We do try to match up. If someone comes to our website, they can go in and look. We're trying to match them up with a knowledgeable provider and give them that option and make it easy for them. They have the choice. They have the ultimate choice. But we're trying to say, hey, we think it's better if you do it this way. Here are some options for you. You decide.
I love that because you're putting the consumer first the entire time in that
Yeah.
regard.
Yeah.
And so what do you want if we have clinicians, we have patients, we have consumers, what do you want all these individuals that are using your products to understand that really just never makes it onto a Designs for Health label?
Uh, Probably all the stuff we talked about, all the stuff that goes along behind the scenes, all the due diligence and the quality and staying on top of the emerging science and just trying to figure out, what's happening before the layperson ever hears about it. I mean, we're sometimes 20, 30. I swear we're more than 20 years ahead of the curve. I mean, a couple years ago, colostrum blew up online, right? Like everyone's colostrum, colostrum, like it was the new thing. We introduced colostrum 23 years ago into our line, right? The same kind of stuff that's out now, that's the new thing, right? So we replaced folic acid in all of our products. Synthetic folic acid went to methylated folate before any other brand did because I saw the science emerging. I saw the proliferative data and the concerns about synthetic folic acid in cancer studies, right? We did the same thing with alpha to deoxytocopherol and went to tocotrienols, delta and gamma tocotrienols, because they're much better, they're much safer, they don't imbalance things. So, you know, you can never put that on a label. It's just you don't have enough time, you don't have enough space.
Love it. So I have one final question for you. I want to know the one supplement that you personally cannot live without, and I also want to know that one supplement that's flying under the radar that you wish more people knew about.
Hmm. The flying under the radar one, I'm tempted to go with the sugar allulose because of all of its beneficial effects on actual postprandial blood sugar and insulin and GLP-1 signaling. Um, and it's getting a lot of publicity now, but the data on it is just absolutely unbelievable. But one that's really home to Designs for Health that we really were the first on and the only ones that really offer that know in professional lines is something called geraniol, which we call GG. It's a very important endogenous molecule. It's a really linchpin in what's called isoprenoid biochemistry, really important stuff and deep in the cell. It's metabolism. It's involved in producing androgenic hormones and testosterone. It's involved in the production of vitamin K. It's involved in the production of prenylated proteins that keep muscle healthy. It's involved in cholesterol levels. It's involved in all kinds of things. And it's a mitochondrial regulator. So it helps produce CoQ10, for instance. And GG is extremely important in core metabolic functions, including mitochondrial respiration. So that's one that's really under the radar. If you really want to do some deep reading, look into geraniol, or GG.
And the one supplement you can't live without.
Oh, the one supplement that I can't live without. I guess if I had to pick one, I would actually say just because it regulates well over 450 genes and it hits so many damn targets, you can't even mention them, is probably D3.
I love it. D3. I'm a
Remember,
D3
the
user
most
every day.
predictive thing, the most predictive thing of your outcome when you were exposed to SARS-CoV-2 on your outcome on whether what kind of clinical course you would have, including potential death, was your vitamin D status going into the exposure. All across
Unbelievable.
the world, everywhere they studied it.
I wish I would have known that back at the time of COVID, but
Yeah,
uh, as a fellow D3 user, I love it.
there you go.
Awesome. Doing quality before it was cool, connecting patients with clinicians to get the right supplement at the right time for the right reason. Dr. David Brady, Chief Medical Officer at Designs for Health. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you. Appreciate it.